Michigan coach Juwan Howard. Let's go. All right, bro. Peace and welcome to the show here on the Black Star Network. It is the culture. Folks, we're going to have a great conversation, a number of conversations today. We're going to kick it off talking about President Trump, former president, putting out his new social media platform, The Truth. We'll discuss the implications of this platform on the communications landscape and how it will possibly affect his run in 2024. Also, let's talk about the fact of Americans moving according to their political views. They are calling it the big sort, how Americans are moving to places that speak to who they are politically. That's interesting. And then in the second hour, we were going to be joined by Coach Butch McAdams to talk all things sports, from Brian Flores, Sha'Carri Richardson, and the slap that Michigan coach Juwan Howard gave to the assistant coach just the other night. What for? And of course, we got some other great stuff. So stay with us. That's all happening on today's show of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. It is President's Day for the year 2022, and we got some presidential conversations happening for you. The first one today is about former President Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot to be said about the former president, but today is a big day, and it's by no exception that he decided to go live with his new social media platform, Truth Social. Yes, folks, the president has decided that he wanted to take communications into his own hands, creating a platform that is similar to what you might see on Twitter or some of these other mainstream platforms. Now, this comes as a result of the president being banned from other platforms such as Twitter and Facebook as a result of what happened with the January 6th insurrection. And so now with this new platform, Truth Social, it allows the president to put out his communication unfiltered in a way that he can get to his followers and supporters. Now, according to the reports now this Truth Social went live today on the Apple network, and they were greeted by a message like when you go on there and you sign up for Truth Social, you're going to get a welcome message to register for the service. As of today, there were about 150,000 people that have been a part of the wait list for the sign-up process. And it's a way that many people are saying is a way for the former president to try to, quote unquote, muscle his way back into the social media space, especially after that disastrous, you remember this disastrous kind of attempt, like he was put off of Twitter and then he was kind of putting out information via these statements. So anything that, that he found to be interesting, he would put out a statement, and then the statement would go viral, and he would, have his followers and surrogates put it out there. But the problem was it never really caught fire like the way his words caught fire on those mainstream platforms, particularly Twitter. And so now with this new Truth Social, the president is looking to get back into the conversation. Now, last week, Donald Trump's son, Donald Jr., tweeted something made the first post on the social platform. He said, quote, "Get ready. I can't say, I'm sorry. He said, your favorite president will see you soon." Posts on the platform are going to be referred to as truths. And while applications of a post are known as retruths. Okay. I want to bring in my culture crew member, Reverend Eric P. Lee. He is a pastor, community organizer. He's been doing this great work for years, and we're happy to have him a part of the culture crew. Brother Eric, thank you so much, sir. How are you this afternoon?
Doing well, Farajii. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm speaking my truth.
As you know it. As you perceive it. Okay.
Now, look, I'm not going to do it. Here's the thing. This is why I wanted us to have this conversation about this platform, because it is a fascinating story. Fascinating story. And when I was, one of my producers said, we were like, oh, we're going to try to get some folks to come on and talk about it. Like, people still see Donald Trump being the polarizing figure that he is, don't want to give him more legitimacy or should give him any more shine or spotlight on anything that he does. But for me, as much as I understand the sentiment, for me, it's still important that we keep our eye on this former president. What's your take of him creating this platform?
Well, I mean, from reality TV star to, corporate thief to presidency, he has to remain in the limelight. And, it's all about his ego. And that comes out of his own personal insecurities about whether he's successful or not. And so, the bigger concern for me is that most of his supporters, he doesn't even represent, and he really doesn't care about. And so, we talking about the blind leading the blind. We're just in a time period where our country is grasping for, I would say, a personality that is inciting the deep emotions of privilege and racism all at one time.
Yeah, and that is my that is one of my big concerns. I mean, look, I study communications. I've that was what I studied in college. That's the work that I do. And I understand the dynamics and the power of the spoken word, the typed word. I understand the power of all of this, which is why I don't think we can just quote unquote overlook this situation, just because when you have a place where you can dictate the narrative, dictate the agenda in any type of communication fashion, that still allows you to have a seat at the table, quote unquote, right? That still gives you power, because you have the power to influence. You have the power to tell the stories that you want to tell, and most importantly, to put out any type of view that you want people to have. And it's also a place where people can come to you. Like, they don't have to wait on whether this outlet is going to report or this outlet is going to report. They could hear it directly from you. So I think that's one. These are just some of the big reasons why I think that this part of the discussion needs to be had, because you're determining the power of the communication. And if 70 million people voted for you, and even though that number has dropped significantly since the election, but people are still intrigued and are interested in what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's an old adage that, no publicity is bad publicity. So he's going to get publicity one way or another. And I think by disrupting mainstream media or disrupting conventional media or ways of thinking is his tool, his opportunity to make sure that the cameras are always going to be on him, and that his voice is always going to be heard. And the downside of that is, I think you want to ignore him and not give credit to what he's saying, because as long as we pay attention to what he's saying, then he's empowered.
Right.
If we pay attention to the craziness of this man, then he is empowered to continue doing what he's doing. And we are actually affirming what he's doing by paying attention to him. And so I think that
But here's the thing, though, brother. I mean, can we? I mean, look, we all know that he has his sights set on running for office in 2024. So he is already coming into the race as a former president. So he was able to galvanize his base. Two, he already has kind of muscled his way to the top of the GOP agenda in terms of dictating what the agenda will be for the GOP. Three, you coming with a communications platform that probably no other candidate will in the Republican Party will have. They will have to rely on traditional and even traditional media and social media.
Right.
So you're coming into the conversation with a lot more. And I'm just saying, speaking as a candidate, you're coming into the situation with a lot of pluses on your side. And you really do have the power to say yes or no. You have the power to say, look, I'm going to be the Republican nominee. Everybody else needs to sit down. You have the power to say, if somebody comes oppose me in any fashion, I'll just blast your ass. Put you on my social media.
Yeah, he's shoring up his base. He's going to make sure that there are lines of communication to his base, because as social media shut him down across the board, his priority was to get back in touch with his people and shore up his base. He is coming with a significant, maybe 30 to 35% intact base for his next presidential run. Without question.
So what does a candidate, what do other Republican candidates, not that I'm just wondering just now, just thinking about it outside, just saying, okay, so what does a Republican candidate that may be in agreement with Donald Trump or may not be in agreement, how do they handle that?
Well, we may, in another segment of the culture, we talked about whether or not there's, a third party capability, particularly for liberal Black folks or progressive Black folks, progressive people altogether. And this may be the movement towards a third political party. I mean, you have the Green Party, you have the Independents, but in terms of the numbers of people that legitimizes the political party and its opportunity to run for president, this might be the beginning of a party if the Republican Party, the GOP, break away from Trumpism. See, Trumpism is becoming a party unto itself.
Right.
And what does it do? Adam Kissinger, I think he's retiring. Him and Liz Cheney, those two Republicans, they could actually be the spark for reviving the grand old party, which Black folks used to be a part of.
Right.
But reviving that and having the Trumpism as a separate party unto itself.
I think you might be onto something. That is something that they have been trying to avoid. They have always, and I'm saying they as the Republicans have always kind of, kept their ranks tight. Whereas for the Democrats, we know there are so many different factions, from progressives to moderate to conservatives and all of those different things. But you might be on a situation, Eric, where they might be breaking into factions or trying to break off much quicker than what we see with the Democratic Party. Absolutely. And if you are part of the Trump party versus the Republican Party, then now you got a whole new situation. I want to bring in our other culture crew member, B. Fly, Black woman film producer and co-owner and co-founder of Blackwater Production House. B. Fly, thank you so much for checking in, sis. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me, Farajii. How you feel today?
We're good. B, when you think about this, you study communications. You know the power of it, right?
I do.
You got this man starting his own platform. Did you just take a breath, B?
I did, Farajii. I did. Because shouldn't we all start our own platforms?
Right.
Shouldn't we all? It's possible. The technology is available to both you and I. We don't have to just be Geminis to activate the technology, So Donald Trump, he kind of plays into his privilege as a politician, his privilege as a TV personality, a privilege as a Gemini zodiac sign. Most Gemini zodiac signs we know are pushing boundaries that the average person would rather them not push.
Are we talking about Trump or Kanye?
I mean, you know, the line is kind of blurry. The line is blurry. And I, as the rapper, I, as the woman who's married to a Gemini and who has given birth to a Gemini.
Wow.
I just have to, you know, just make space for the one that seems to be garnering lots of attention, that seems to be controlling the narrative as a communication great should. All right. So we all know how love and hate operate in our society today. You can on social media say how much I love life and get 2 likes. But as soon as you say, oh my God, I want to die, then everyone is swarming. Everyone is swarming. So the Donald Trump effect, it kind of shows more about us than it does him. He's just doing what he and his counterparts do. Just rev us up, throw in something in the pot that we're not comfortable with, and then we go emotional. But at the end of the day, it's politics. At the end of the day, he does represent white male racist privilege. So,
well, you know what? And I think it's an interesting point that you made, B, in terms of, you know, us looking at this situation, and you kind of jokingly said, well, shouldn't we all kind of create our own platforms to communicate, and like to tell our story and to speak our narrative and our truth? And I'm wondering, Brother Eric, you know, is that one of the things that we can possibly take from this situation? And when we're looking at President Trump saying, hey, wait a minute, if he has the wherewithal, the resources, B say, of course, the privilege, but if he's talking about creating this, and I mean, we have apps, and we're here on the Black Star Network. We're on apps like Fanbase and in other spaces. But does this affirm, or rather, does this strengthen the argument, Brother Eric, that we need to create our own platforms? I mean, we got a Black-owned media with Black Star Network, but we need to do more of that because we're not going to be heard as a result of being a part of these traditional platforms?
Well, we have them, as you stated. And I think what we need to do is to support what we have. That has to be first and fundamental. And that has been one of the challenges that we as a people have faced since the time of desegregation and integration, so-called integration, where we stopped supporting Black-owned institutions because now we had the opportunity to support what we were traditionally denied, opportunity to access. And so first and foremost, let's support our own. And then as we do that, then I think we can launch into others. I mean, and it doesn't preclude us from having to being able to launch other platforms. But I'd like to see us as a nation of people, as Black folks, to fully support what we already have. And to B-Fly's point, you know, Donald Trump, you know, anytime someone gets you to react, then they control the narrative. And he is throwing things out there that causes people to react. And once you react to him, he's in control. And that's what I got from what B-Fly was saying, you know. Because at first I'm thinking, well, does he really control the narrative, or is he disrupting the narrative? But anytime we react to what he says, he is now in control.
Absolutely.
There have been a number. Go ahead, B.
When it comes to media, you know, like, it's not like Donald Trump is giving any of us a call. He's not coming into our personal social media platforms and having a conversation with us. No, he's paying media. Like this is still capitalism. This is still big business. Radio, TV, film is the anchor of American capitalistic sales. And so Donald Trump is embedded into this system, you know? And so whether we are quote unquote fans of his work, every time we click on a post, every time we actually go 10 seconds and let this narrative play, we are participating and we are raising the funds, whether we like it or not, you know? So I would like to know which social media platforms do we actually own, and where are we supposed to be funneling our resources, you know?
Absolutely.
I know that there's fan base, but like, is there another one, or are there droves that I'm just not aware of because I'm a drone as well, only looking at the main core, you know?
Right. And I think, you know, there have been a number of reports, B and Eric, about the fact that this platform, since it went live today on Apple, that it's been riddled with error messages and outages and all types of technical issues. Now, Devin Nunes, who is the former Republican congressman who actually quit being a congressman to become the CEO of the company, the CEO of this media company, said last week that the Truth Social expects to be, quote unquote, fully operational by the end of March, when, quote, anyone can get on the platform within the United States at any time. So we're going to see, and I know that they're going to try to enlist, you know, their engineers and their designers and all of those folks. I think we're really going to see Truth Social as being the communication center for Donald Trump's reelection campaign for 2024. I truly believe that. Yeah. And what I also think is going to happen as we kind of look at this situation, the same way that President Barack Obama had revolutionized how to campaign when he first ran in 2008, in terms of small contributions and donations, in terms of the door-to-door strategies and all of those things. Like, he had this national grassroots level strategy. I potentially see the same thing possibly happen, how Donald Trump is reimagining how to run in 2024 with just hosting this platform. Again, nobody else has a platform that they can call their own to say, hey, this is my platform, this is my stuff. And so I think that's going to be the other part of this, is how the Republican Party is going to respond to this, how they're going to handle. You have this man that is such a major figure in the party. You don't want to ostracize him because you know he got the power to take you down in some way. But then at the same time, you don't want to welcome him in because he's soiling what the party is trying to do. And so it puts this party in a big conundrum, a very, very big conundrum, to the point where they're going to try to figure, I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to respond. You know what I mean? But we've never seen a presidential candidate that has this type of, you know, I mean, like I said, Barack reimagined campaigning, but I think Trump reimagined communications for that side. I might be totally wrong, and I'm cool if I'm wrong, but this could potentially be a game changer, Eric and B.
It is, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, this is. Are we not? Are we not looking forward to the political Hunger Games of our life? This is amazing. I'm upset. Like, I can't find my phone. I want to download this app.
Right.
I need to be a part of this movement. I can't just sit on the sideline. I need to see this. No, because understand, all right, let's table politics, and let's table the Republican, Democrat, Black, white, rich, poor, ism, blah, right? We have an issue when it comes to social media and being policed. We do have an issue with this. Who are the powers that be that dictate shadow banning, that dictate the way we see and receive information? Who are these people? So something, yes, has to happen in order to counteract something that is heading down a destructive path. Okay, and so we need to be able to push on how the truth is disseminated, who dictates what that truth is, and we need to keep a watch. We need to be keeping a watch on our enemy. So if I'm hoping all three of us within the next 24 hours have accounts within this platform, so we're not just spectating while our enemies are actually like gathering. Right. I would like to know the difference between his bandwidth and mine, because any .com can become its own social media. The difference is advertising power. Donald Trump has the advertising power to call every media executive and to get his platform into our minds. I personally don't have that direct advertising power, but Farajii, do you? You know what I'm saying? Like we can easily create these. Boom, boom. You understand?
It's called Black Star. I mean, seriously, it's called Black Star Network. It's called The Culture. It's called Black-owned media. And once you and I think you're so on point, B. Once you get that advertising power, and we're looking for advertisers and sponsors and supporters, but once you have that power, the sky's the limit. The sky is really the limit.
That's it. You know, so as long as we are able to understand the game and actually compete at the level that we need to compete at, so we can counteract these voices, because at the end of the day, nobody owns truth, and it is subjective. All right. And that is the one of the quote unquote marketable factors of America, the fact that there are many truths that can be expressed all at one time. All right. So I'm here for his truth, but I'm also here to make sure that mine is heard and we can connect to the ones who also radiate on our vibration. That's what's important.
There it is, folks. I love it, B. That's a great way to look at this, folks. I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about what many have phrased it as the big sort. Why Americans are moving to places not because of jobs, not because of weather, but because they're moving to cities and counties and towns because of political views. We'll have that conversation up next. So stay with us. That is coming up here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. I want to talk about a new phenomenon that many people may not have noticed, but has become very prevalent in our culture. There have been a number of people, Americans, who have decided to move out of the big cities, the urban centers, to places that to places not just for jobs or just for weather or just for the economy or schools, but now one of the big deciding factors for people to move is because of political beliefs. For example, we're finding that a number of conservatives, whether you're in California or in the East Coast, are migrating to Texas. You're finding that liberals are migrating to other parts of the southern portion of the United States. And this phenomenon continues to grow. They are calling this the big sort. Now, this idea of the big sort is based on a book that was written by Mr. Bill Bishop. And it was also written by a statistician and sociologist, William Cushing. And this book came out back in 2008. And in this book, it just makes the point that America is becoming more and more divisive and more like-minded because we are starting to move into communities and places where we all start thinking the same. Now, on the outset, I'm going to share this little part with you folks, and then we're going to go back to our culture crew. But on the outset, that might sound good, right? That might sound, okay, great. I'm able to move into this place with people of like-mindedness, who understand my views, who get me. But Bill Bishop put in his book, he said, living in politically like-minded groups has had its consequences. People living in homogeneous communities grow both more extreme and more certain in their beliefs. Locally, therefore, governments backed by large majorities are tackling every conceivable issue. Nationally, however, Congress has lost most of its moderate members and is mired in conflict. Now, he wrote this back in 2008, folks, and listen to the language. Is that not describing what we're seeing in 2022, 14 years later, and we're still seeing this phenomenon happen? I want to bring back my culture crew. We're joined by Eric Lee, who is a community organizer and advocate, and we're also joined by B. Fly, who is the co-owner of Blackwater Production House. Eric and B, let's talk a little bit about how this whole situation is playing out, because we're finding, and I mentioned it, that if you are of a certain political philosophy, that you're moving out of those big cities, you're moving out of those urban centers. You would rather choose a small city or small town where they agree with you, Brother Eric, versus a big city where you are exposed to all these diverse views. You're not going to stay there. I mean, you work in housing, you've been doing studies around, community development and just in general how communities are coming together. Well, what do you make of this phenomenon? Is this something that you're seeing as well on your radar, Brother Eric?
Well, yeah, I think that a couple of things. We have a tendency to live in segregated communities, racially segregated communities, economically segregated communities, and now the move is towards a politically segregated community. And what is happening is people are resigning themselves not to grow in their understanding of diversity, not to grow in their understanding of how other people think and potentially other viewpoints and perspectives. And so it's a retreat into enclaves of I would say not only privileged thinking, but insecurities that causes people to not want to be challenged on their perspectives and their viewpoints in life.
Yeah. Let me just share this with you. According to the Texas Real Estate Research Center at Texas A&M University, they found that residents, for example, your hometown, your home state, California, residents have been fleeing states like California with high taxes, expensive real estate, and school mask mandates, and heading to conservative strongholds like Idaho, Tennessee, and Texas. And according to this research center, they're saying more than 1 of every 10 people moving to Texas during the pandemic was from California. Most came from Southern California. And then Florida was the second biggest contributor of new Texans.
Yeah. So
you got Florida and you got California as being like the center of these conservative thinking and movements. Now, that's one dynamic. I want to share with you also with one of our watchers, my man Epic Change. He always checks in with us, but he said something I think that needs to be highlighted. He said people are wanting to be with like-minded people, which means that people are not talking with each other. The silence is deafening. This has the potential of quelling human expression, silencing public discourse, and diminishing public thought. Epic, thank you so much, brother, for posting that. I think that is the slippery slope of this phenomenon that you're talking about, quelling human expression, silencing public discourse, and diminishing public thought. And I'm thinking to myself, oh snap, are we about to get into a much more segregated America? What's your take on that?
Listen, these masks opened up a whole next paradigm of WTFness, Farajii. Okay, so the pandemic ushered in a period of time when we could not talk to our neighbor, we could not go into the grocery store. It eliminated the stop and chat. It eliminated the neighborly smile. All right. So once that's gone, then no, you don't have permission to express your thought outside in the world. How? Because your mouth is covered, and now it's harder for someone to even listen to you. All right. That is real. So yes, it's important to be able to live next door physically to your like-minded person. Once upon a time, we were able to commute and live wherever in our commune and still connect with people in social media. All right. Yeah. We definitely got the way we related as humans totally became lazy, because of social media. And so now once our physical world shifted and left us isolated, then it literally gave birth to a next way to fix that problem of human isolation. And the only way to fix that problem is to squad up with your village. Squad up with your village. Now, so that's the human. But the challenge, and I guess to where my ego, where my blackness, where my body is being stolen property in this land and have been crying for my freedom. So now so before I get my freedom, we have every other group in America who's able to fight and rally and commune around theirs. And so it brings me back to this, why me, Lord? Like when are we going to be able within our Black power, like to really do what we need to do for our community, regardless of what the world may say? You know, our community has been split between, you know, do we integrate or do we segregate? We are still in that debate while our enemy is segregating behind red line fences that we can't even get into. So I can understand why the village would want to link up with itself today. I can. It still makes me crave my village. It still makes me wonder, where do I go? Because at the end of the day, there ain't no Africa for me. There ain't no Kansas for me. There's no Texas for me. Like, that's not heaven.
And you know what, B, and you know what, and I think, you know, I got to take another quick pause, but when we come back, let's talk about that, because we don't have the same liberty. We don't have the same wherewithal to say, oh, I'm a move. Like, we're going to be victimized and terrorized regardless, right? As Black people. And that's, unfortunately, that's been our history in this country. So we do have to figure out, like, okay, everybody else can move around, but where do Black people go? Where do Black people go?
Our cities are being gentrified left and right, you know? So it's like, so.
And not just our cities being gentrified, our history is under attack, and our culture is being diluted, where we can't even express our Blackness. Look, folks, we got to continue this conversation. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, more discussion around the big sword, how Americans are moving according to their political views. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back. We've been having a conversation about the big sword, how Americans are moving according to their political views. Been talking to Culture Crew member Eric Lee and B Fly, having this conversation, and we invite you to join as well, posting your comments, your thoughts in our chats on whether it's YouTube or Facebook. We'll try to get to your comments as well to include in this discussion. So B, to the point that you made, and I think it is an interesting and a very, very, very valid point, that, you know, as a Black woman, and you are part of a Black family, part of the Black community, we are a community that's part of a group or a nation of people. We don't have that liberty. We don't have that wherewithal to quote unquote to say, okay, I'm gonna just get up and move with some other Black people who think like me, right? We're still so ingrained into the mix and into the culture of things, even though we're, you know, we are a third minority in this country. I mean, when we look at the Hispanic and Latino brothers and sisters, but we don't have a place. And that, I think that's the part about this phenomenon, Brother Eric, that is concerning, that we are still kind of left in the lurch. We're still left. Everybody else is trying to figure out how they can organize and galvanize to gain their power, but our power is still scattered all over the place, and we can't make choices on how to tap into that power. That's my concern.
Yeah, you know, what we've seen over the last 2 decades, almost 2 decades now, is a migration of Black folks back to the South, particularly from California and Western states, and going back to the land. And I think that's really the only thing that we have here in this country is the opportunity to take up some space on land, and to become as independent as possible, because we don't have the place that we can feel that we have the freedom to be who we are and how we are. And, you know, the neighborhoods that we live in now, I think are just temporary holding places for us until we get back to a point where we get in touch with the land, we can cultivate our own food, we can, and live with the type of freedoms to be able to express ourselves for who we truly are. And I think that's where the movement has to take place. And you've seen over the last 5 years where families are coming together, and not only families, but groups of people, Black folks are coming together, buying acres of property to be able to have that type of freedom to build and live with the type of dignity that we know we operate in, but that the rest of the country doesn't treat us in. And so that's where I think we need to head.
And I think that is a huge consideration. Another one of our watchers, Janelle, checked in and said, look, Charles Blow, who is the journalist and op-ed columnist, she said, Charles proposed that to increase our power dynamics by moving back to the states that were historically dense with Black folks. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're talking about Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, Maryland, Georgia, Delaware, Alabama are all 20% plus with Black folks. Is that the strategy that we should think about doing, for one? And then two, who's willing to do that? Who's willing to do that? Because the reason I'm asking is that if you're thinking about uprooting your family and say, I'm going to make a move to a different state, you have to have a mindset of collectiveness to be able to say, okay, I'm doing this for the people, for the culture. I'm trying to do this for, versus having a mindset like, no, I'm gonna stay in this place because I'm getting money for me and my family, and that's it. So there has to also be a different mindset where you are willing to put your family out there, put yourself out there, to move to places like that, but to move to these spaces where traditionally, these southern states where traditionally Black folks, where we used to be before we migrated to the north and to the east and west, is that the move right now? B, what's your take on that?
You know, you have you have the native and then you have the colonizer. All right. The native is in the land. The native knows the land. The native only knows the land and its people on that land. All right. Then the resources get used up. The native doesn't know what to do because this is all the native knows. Then you have the colonizer. The colonizer bounces around from place to place, understands that the entire world is theirs and that they are able to gentrify. So they're able to buy low, they're able to sell high. That is the purpose. That's the game of the colonizer. So once we as Black people understand how to colonize, and once we understand where our colonies are, then I think the ones who are super revolutionary, all right, the ones who don't try and play life safe, who understand that in order to change the powers that be, we have to roll a dangerous line, all right? And that's not always comfortable. So that literally means instead, if you're moving to California, move to Compton, gentrify as a Black person. You understand? Like keep your places Black and look for other Black places, you know? There's a huge gentrification that's happening in Baltimore, the city, you know? I'm not from Baltimore, I'm from California, you know? But I travel Black cities. I love colonizing Black cities, all right? And so I have a slew of Brooklyn colleagues who recognize what's happening in Brooklyn and who have intentionally started to move and purchase property in Baltimore because Baltimore is one of the last densely Black cities in this country. And so we have to be able to understand the problem, understand why they're here, and figure out ways to literally fix these problems for us, by us, and not from our white nonprofits that literally only want to prolong the problem in order to prolong their paycheck. You understand? So there's a difference with the way we feed our family, the way we heal our family, and the way our oppressors pretend to feed and heal us. They'll feed us plastic. Yeah. And then send us to the doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like I got you. This is what happens in America. This is also the American way. So we cannot look to them for true leadership. We have to be able to understand the game that's being played, the system that they run, and really how to upset it for our benefit. You know, so when it comes to B,
I'm sorry, I was just going to add to that because I think the pieces that the point that you're making is super important, and the fact is that we have to see that our families, and this is like on a fundamental level, brother Akinbi, that our families are a part of a larger link in a chain, right? Like we are. Like, yes, we have our individual identity, but then we have our familial and our collective identity. And our families are a part of something, you know, and especially when you're talking about families that have set its roots in certain places and spaces, like we are a part of a larger link in the chain. So what you and I do with our consciousness, where we go with our creativity, how we use our talents and skills, that's going to add to whatever place that we're in. And just like we see this in business, you know, when one corporation does merging or acquisitions, or when a company said we're going to move our headquarters to a different place, like you're bringing all that you bring to that city, to that, whether it's culture, knowledge, skills and talent, you're bringing that to the next place, and that will take the next place up to the next level. And if we don't start seeing the value of ourselves and our families in light of the collective progress of us as a people, then we're going to always think individual, and then not see the connectedness. Like Dr. King always talking about the connectedness, and like we have to get back to the place of being connected, Brother Eric, because what happens in California should affect your brother in Baltimore. What happens in Florida should affect your sister in Texas. Like that connectedness has to be restored. Brother, you got 30 seconds on that. What's your take?
Yeah. So one thing I do believe that we need to have, and when we talk about a collectiveness, is a shared value system, which is why one of my mentors, Dr. Maulana Karenga, and the development of Kwanzaa and the Nguzo Saba, that shared value system will allow us to come together and operate with the skills that you were talking about. The shared value system of creativity, of collective work and responsibility. And so the Nguzo Saba, I think, could be a framework, whether you practice it in its all its tenets exactly as it was designed, or at least have it as a framework for how we operate. I think that's important for us to have that shared value system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, we got to take another break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears, check in with Coach Butch McAdams. A lot of big sports news that have happened over the weekend. We want to share it with you. We want to discuss it and certainly get our culture crew's insight on it. And of course, I got some other stuff to share with you as we are continuing to talk about what's happening with us and our culture, a little something for President's Day and a little celebration. So stay with us. We got a great show lined up for you for the next hour of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, peace and welcome to the show, folks, and welcome to the second hour of today's show. We had a great first hour. It's fantastic, talking a little bit about former President Trump's social media platform to the big sword, how Americans are moving according to their political views. Now we want to switch gears and talk about all things sports. And I'm very, very happy to welcome back to the airwaves of the Black Star Network our coach, Coach Butch McAdams, to join us for this part of the conversation. Coach, good to have you back on, sir. How are you?
I'm well, always a pleasure, and let's get to it.
All right, Coach. So here's one of the big stories that I think that came out over the weekend, and I text you, and I was like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
This story around Brian Flores. Now, for those who may not have known, but this former Miami Dolphins head coach, let me put it out there, he was a head coach. He filed a lawsuit, talked about racial discrimination, alleging racial discrimination, as he he was fired from Miami. He went to pursue other coaching opportunities with other teams, the Broncos, the Giants, and then one other team. He alleged that because of the behind the scenes politics and of institutional racism, that even though he was given interviews, he was not seriously considered. And as a result of that, he did not get the head coaching jobs for any of those teams. Now, that lawsuit, of course, erupted, just completely took the NFL and the sports world by storm. But it was announced this past weekend, that this head coach, I can't emphasize this enough, head coach was given the opportunity to work for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he took the opportunity as a defensive assistant and linebackers coach. So a head coach decides to take a job as a defensive assistant and linebackers coach. Now, of course, the Steelers are going to put out a statement saying, quote, "I am excited about Brian joining our coaching staff." And this is from Mike Tomlin. It was only two black head coaches in the NFL at this point, Mike Tomlin being one of them, but he put it out saying that he's excited about Brian joining the coaching staff, given his history of developing and teaching defensive players. His resume speaks for itself, so he can attest to what Brian is bringing to the table. And he said, "I look forward to him adding his expertise to help our team." Now, of course, he didn't get into the politics of the lawsuit, and of course, he didn't talk about, the implications of the lawsuit. He just went straight on, "Hey, we got a new guy. He's coming to the team. He got great experience. We want him." What the hell is going on, Coach? Because I thought that this was, people had kind of likened this moment to a Kaepernick moment.
Well, but it still is. And I'm looking at it totally different, I think. That he didn't just sign with any team. He signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if Brian Flores, obviously he wants to coach. That's what he does.
Right.
But and that's why I applauded him, and you as others as well, because he risked his career for what he thought was right. All right. I think it is a brilliant move for both parties. Because, number one, that's the procedure. Most of your head coaches who get fired don't go and get another head coaching job. They become assistants, and then maybe they get another shot. For example, Matt Nagy, it was rumored that Kansas City may hire him. Okay, but that's the procedure. And Tomlin has been in Pittsburgh for a number of years. He's still relatively young, but he's been there for a while. Who knows how much longer? So he could be the heir apparent to that job. Also, Pittsburgh, they don't have losing seasons. And so you go to Pittsburgh, they have another winning season, go to the playoffs, win a game or two, and opening becomes available. Hey, he's in. It's easier to work from the inside than it is the outside. Now, from the Pittsburgh perspective, they flex their muscles. They are the most progressive organization in the league. I took a count, and you and others can do the same. Besides Mike Tomlin being African American, he has 8 other Black coaches on his staff. 8 other. And of course, the Rooney family, they've always been very progressive. If you remember, years ago, Dan Rooney was one of the first high-profile billionaires to come out and publicly support Barack Obama, where people were saying, don't do it, don't do it. He did it. So I love the move. I think it's brilliant on both parties, and I think it's going to work out.
But I can't help but feel, Coach, that, I mean, he's going to move forward. Brian Flores' attorney said that the lawsuit has not been dismissed or anything. Like, they're still planning to proceed,
right,
moving forward with this lawsuit. But my thinking is, you know, what is, like, what are we fighting for? You know, what is the like with Kaepernick? It was like, with Kaepernick, it was like, hey, we're going to, you know, we're trying to do something totally different. He ushered in a different level of engagement that the NFL should have with the people and with the society. With this, I felt like that engagement was in that same sentiment. Like, okay, yes, this is a fundamental issue. The NFL has a Black coaching problem. Yes, this lawsuit is going to open up the doors and the conversation and all of that. Now it's like, and I get it, the brother got to eat. And I know folks on Facebook and social media are like, yeah, the man got to eat, Farajii. I get that. But did we take a loss in that? And him getting,
no,
and him needing to eat?
No.
And will the point still be made?
The point has already been made. The point has already been made. Okay, no way there's a loss in this thing because the lawsuit is still standing. Now, as I've stated consistently, and I don't have a crystal ball, and St. Peter doesn't whisper in my ear, so I'm just guessing like everyone else, but I don't believe it's going to get to court. I believe it'll be a settlement. But the goal was to put the racist practices of some of the NFL owners out in public view, and that's happened. I don't see this as a loss whatsoever. And again, this is not just any franchise. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't know if any other franchises would have had the guts to do what they did. And I think it was done purposely. So for Pittsburgh to show, hey, we set the example. The Rooney Rule is named after our former owner. So no, I see it as a win-win. And yes, he does have to eat. However, it's more than eating. I'm going to say it again. If he aspires to be a head coach again, and it appears he does, then it's easier to work from inside than on the outside.
All right, let's go to my culture crew, Eric P. Lee and B. Fly. Eric, when you look at this scenario from a social justice lens, and I don't know if we should or with, and just keep it as a sports thing. But what are you seeing, Eric?
Well, I mean, I think he's right in suing the NFL because of the institutional discrimination and racism that's embedded in the culture.
Right.
And so, you know, to Coach McAdams' point, I mean, he is bigger than just him. We're attacking a system of privilege that I don't know if you remember the book some years ago called The $40 Million Slave.
Yeah.
Where, you know, athletes, though they're making millions of dollars, are still under the control of the billionaire owners. And so what Coach Flores is doing, I think, is good for the entire league. And whether it's settled prior to going to court, I think part of that settlement would be major changes to how they engage Black coaches and how they engage the NFL Players Union, as well as, you know, the majority of players, which I think is probably around 80%, Coach McAdams, 80% Black players in the league.
They say 70%.
It's a little less. It's 70%, but hey, 70, 80, that's a significant amount of a majority.
Yeah.
And I think the settlement will probably be addressing many of those institutional discriminatory practices that now exist. But to you know, I think the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, you know, I'm from Oakland, California, so, you know, and I'm a diehard Raiders fan, but the Raiders would have probably done something like the Steelers had done because they were progressive.
And the Raiders needed.
They needed it, particularly.
They needed the good optics after the John Gruden scenario.
After Chucky scenario, yes.
Right, after Chucky couldn't play no more, like they needed that. So I mean, you make an excellent point there. You make an excellent point with them.
But that would be the only two teams that I could see, you know. But the Steelers, I was, you know, and Coach Tomlin is a frat brother, so you know, I root for him every single time. And as Coach McAdams said, he's probably been there 12 to 14 years.
Almost, I think he's a little bit closer to 20, right?
I think it's about 15 years.
Yeah,
15 years,
and has never. I don't think he's ever had a losing season. But
right.
No, he's not.
He's made a statement. You know, he has made a strong statement, and the owner of the team, Rooney, has made a strong statement about being progressive, about being fair, about being equal, and about equity. And so I do hope some changes come out of this.
One of our watchers, Tynese, asked the question: what will the settlement be for? Money? Is money enough if the practices do not change? And I want to get to B Fly B. What's your take on that? What would you think the settlement would be for at this point?
The settlement will be about money and damages monetarily. All right. Now, is there ever a dollar amount that can actually wash away Black pain? No. But I think what the purpose is for some sort of legal precedent to be set. So it'll be illegal for there to be such zero ownership from Black people. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the legality comes into play. That's literally the only thing I can think of. But I'm not invested in the sport, so I would have to default to the.
No, I hear you. I'm just talking about the scenario of a Black man being in a position that Brian Flores was in, and just currently in. I mean, he's still working, which is cool, which is good, but at the same time, I mean, I just can't help but to feel a little disappointed because the NFL is so good. And Coach, you talk about this all the time. They are master marketers. And the NFL has, there was a Washington Post piece that had came out and where the writer talks about the seductiveness of the NFL, from everything from hiring Loretta Lynch to dealing with, this level of dealing with Brian Flores and say, all right, let's make sure he gets a job. There's still a seductiveness. It feels like you're being wooed by somebody, like by your abuser in some cases. You know what I mean? It's like, what is going on? And by the NFL being able to maneuver and manipulate the conversation, and I think they learned that from the Kaepernick situation, that they kind of jumped in front of this and were able to create and dictate another narrative.
Well, but again, the settlement is the settlement. But in terms of changing the narrative and the environment, that's already in play. And what I mean by that is they've had several meetings, virtual, with Black leadership. Okay, Mark Morial, Al Sharpton, et cetera, et cetera. And so,
you mean, Coach, since this situation?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So the narrative will change. Okay. The narrative will change. Tony Dungy, for example, gave two really good recommendations. One recommendation was that, like other jobs, the teams, when they're looking to hire a head coach, should write up what they're looking for in the head coach. For example, are they looking for someone with experience on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball? Or are they looking for someone with prior head coaching experience? Once they do that, then the person that they hire should match what they were looking for. That's a great recommendation. I think we're going to see some major changes. Now, will it ever be what it should be? I doubt it. But the one thing that I'm hoping that would be huge out of this is getting Black ownership. Because that's the key. Getting Black ownership.
Gotcha.
And that was not a conversation that we were hearing prior to the Flores lawsuit. But now we're hearing it. And also we're hearing that they're literally begging a wealthy Black man to put a bid in for a team.
So, and you're talking about Robert Smith.
Right, yes.
So here's the thing, and Erica, I want to kind of get your take on this. Is part of the reason why I'm feeling disappointed because I may have put too much on Brian Flores as being this civil rights guy.
Martyr.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm seeing him for something that he may not want it to be, nor was he trying to be. And so therefore, as a result of that, because we've seen Kaepernick, we're like, oh, any Black man that pushes back against the NFL is of that mind state versus the fact that this man just wanted to have a coaching job. Am I doing that? Because I feel like I'm doing that.
Yeah, you may be doing that. So
I may be doing that.
yeah, because I think that Coach Flores does see the bigger picture. I don't think he's about just coaching. I think he wants the environment to change. I believe that, or he would not have come through with the suit. And we're talking about a class action suit, and it's still an uphill battle because the NFL owners are not accountable to anybody but themselves. They pay the commissioner, and so they have chosen willfully to ignore inquiries by Black folks wanting to own a team, by Black coaches. They choose to maintain this bubble of white privilege, and so I'm hoping this is a big thing that he's doing by suing the NFL. I'm hoping that change will come at the NFL owners level as Coach Adams is saying, that we have legitimate Black ownership in this institution of the NFL, which is, though it operates privately, they also get public monies for what they do in their stadiums and everything else.
Sure.
So there needs to be some levels of accountability that take place within the NFL.
Now I'm all for that. I'm all for that. All right. So Brian, Coach, you got a job. Congratulations on that. I want to move to this other big story, Coach Butch, where we're talking about Sha'Carri Richardson. We talked about her before because she was upset of how a Russian skater, Camila, was treated as a result of her testing positive for drugs. And Sha'Carri Richardson is like, wait a minute, I tested positive, but I wasn't still allowed to compete. I was suspended for a significant amount of time. Where's the love? And essentially she says, it's because I'm a young Black woman. Well, the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has responded to Sha'Carri and basically told her that this was a whole different scenario. Now, according to Mark Adams, who is, let me make sure I'm getting this right, the spokesperson for the IOC, he argued that each case is considered on an individual basis. He said, quote, you can't talk about double standards in relation to Russian and American athletes. Each case is individual. He said that unlike the Sha'Carri Richardson situation, the differences between the two cases was a matter of timing. Kamila Valiyeva's failed drug test happened during the Russian national competition on December 25th, but the results weren't made public until last week. He said Richardson's positive doping test was discovered on June 19th, and the result was received before the start of the Olympics. She was suspended for a month. There is nothing in common between these two cases. This games, which has not concluded, concerns an issue in December. Coach Butch McGarrett, does that explain the difference? Is Mark Adams, is the IOC making sense? Does this make sense to you?
Well, once they found out, because to be honest, I've not followed it that closely. Mm-hmm. But once they found out, then the athlete was barred from participating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Camila wasn't barred. She could still compete, and she did compete. She landed fourth. She stumbled, and she could still compete, but she wasn't eligible to receive any type of medals if she had landed, if she had first, second, or third place.
Look, I don't know whether that's valid or not, but this is what I do know. There's an old saying that a coach used to use, and I've adopted it. The buzzards can't circle if it ain't nothing dead. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I was disappointed when young Miss Richards put herself in this position. She was fully aware of the doping rules, fully aware, and she chose to smoke marijuana. Now, for the reason she said she was depressed, I don't know, but there are consequences. And I think that at the time she owned up to it. And so hopefully she learns from it. Now, could it be a double standard? Absolutely. But I'm saying, why put yourself in that position?
In the first place.
That's right.
First place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
B, what's your take on this? Because a lot of people have been, I think within the community, a lot of, Black folks are kind of like, some of us are for Sha'Carri, and then the others are saying rules are rules. For her to make a stand like this, and then for the IOC to come back and say, no, there are some differences. What you did happened before you competed. What she did happened while she was just about to compete, and two different scenarios. What's your take?
You see, I guess my level of common sense says that because Sha'Carri tested positive a month before, then And she tested positive for a de-enhancing drug. All right. A de-enhancer. All right. And she still won. All right. So Sha'Carri was benched as a result. She had enough time to clean her system. She had enough time to jump through any hoops. She had enough time. All right. So now we have a minor who is in the middle of competing, okay, who has enhancing drugs, has heart medication, has heart pumping medication to really make her go faster and be stronger and to stretch her literal organ to be able to compete at this level. All right. So we have this child who is still able to participate because she is a minor. Now, have her parents, guardians, been pulled up on any sort of illegal drug charges? Not to my knowledge. All right. So there are not only double standards here, but once again, we have another rogue nonprofit who is making up their own charter as they go.
Mm.
There's no difference between the NFL and the IOC. We're dealing with major nonprofits. We're dealing with major tax shelters for the rich. Let's just keep it clear. All right. These are not businesses. These are not for-profit entities that can actually go down because I, as a consumer, am patronizing. I'm purchasing, and I can at that point boycott, and I can at that point pull my dollar out. Nope, that is not what's happening here. All right. So so we're dealing with a type of business practice that is able to play hopscotch with us at the end of the day. You know, the board on these nonprofits, totally allows this hopscotch to be played whenever it is conducive to them, whenever it highlights them and the narrative, of the Greek god.
Yeah.
Is that's really where this all comes from, So it's like, so in order for that idea to still champion, in order for the idea of the Olympian great, the Greek great, to dominate, then these nonprofits have to breathe life into all of the people, and so we have to cape for them. So I don't cape for the NFL. I don't cape for the Olympics. At the end of the day, I do follow Sha'Carri, but we have a connection deeper than athletics. We have a connection based on the criminalization of cannabis. So that's like, so as a Black woman, we share the same struggle, the same cross, the same fight. And so it's I don't. And so that's all I'll say on the.
I like it.
It's a nonprofit at the end of the day. We're not on the board. Who's on the board?
Hey,
Can you fill up the board?
Well, look, let me just say, in IOC, NFL, they all have their politics of power. And when it comes to these Black athletes, when it comes to the rules and policies, they're going to operate from a space of what's going to allow them to save face and keep the public power that they wield, so that way folks can still stay invested in these institutions, right? In the Olympics and the NFL and all of these things. So that's the other part. But I'm a huge advocate of what Coach just said. Don't put yourself in a situation that might come back to bite you in the ass.
But she owned up. I gotta
go ahead. All right, can we take a pause?
She owned up to her mistake. Sha'Carri,
yes, she did.
She owned up to it, and the only reason that she's talking now is because of the double standard. Because this European child had been tested with a banned substance and was still allowed to compete, and that's the only reason she's speaking out. So yes, double standard. And let us not forget the international politics with China and Russia becoming buddy-buddy in their fight against the United States.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And see, that is, I see you, B. I see you, B. I see you. I'm just saying we can't remove personal responsibility from this conversation as well. And even with the Russian,
what is the responsibility? Like, no, in 5 years, this conversation will be different. In 5 years, this conversation will be different once cannabis is decriminalized throughout the world.
That's
the double standard, like the double standard of cannabis within this system is crazy.
Look,
D-enhanced cannabis is supposed to slow you down, not speed you up.
I mean, come on. A runner taking cannabis?
Do that to the black woman? Come on.
Wait a minute, but a runner taking cannabis? Look, don't do this, B.
She still outran Usain?
No, she didn't.
She admitted her mistake and she accepted the consequences of it.
I'm not. Look, this is not about throwing shade on her, but the last couple of major events, she didn't score well. She's stressed. Come through. The level of stress on Sha'Carri at this point is insane. I'm sure her edges are struggling. She lost her mother. Like, her whole life is being policed. All of the people who held her up are now literally criminalizing the fact that this girl smokes a joint. Girls, like, come through. Like, but no. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I feel like, and I got to take a quick pause, but I feel like we're having two different conversations, because it's not just about a girl smoking a joint. It's about that joint being a banned substance. Now, I get the politics and the bullshit of the IOC. I get that part. But you do know, and I'm saying that as an athlete, in the Olympics, that's a banned substance.
But that's a banned substance.
Like, that's what it is.
Responsibility for it. She accepted it.
She did. She took responsibility.
She accepted responsibility. Here's what I think she should do. Focus on getting her game back. You know how you sit down all of the haters and all the naysayers? You excel. Focus on getting your game back, sis. That's it.
I'm calling.
I get what you're saying.
Is that her game though, for real? Is that going to be her game moving forward? I don't know. I know that I'm looking forward to understanding and to seeing what this moment has birthed within her as a woman, like, and there is going to be more from Sha'Carri. I mean, let's look at what's his name, Michael Phelps. All right, Michael Phelps, same situation. All righty, so he
got punished too.
He did.
He got punished too. But look, let me tell you though.
He's doing calm ads right now.
That's what I'm saying. He's focused. He was like, man, I'm down. I took responsibility. Man, the next time I'm gonna get back on that track, I'm gonna blaze them. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna focus. And if she needs the time off, she just say, hey, look, I need some time. I need to get myself together. I need to, I'm still in grief. Like, you could dictate, you know what I'm saying? You can dictate how you move in this space right now. And I'm just saying, like, look, sis, I get what you're saying, but if you plan to compete, if she plans to go for the next Olympics, right? Next Summer Olympics, she got to be at the top of her game.
Yeah, and I'm sure she will. But this should not be about Sha'Carri Richardson. This should be about the double standard that exists.
I get that. And I'm with you, Raul. I'm with you 100%. I'm with you. But see, guess what? We can't act as if the race, not her race, race doesn't play a factor. And we can't act as if Sha'Carri's story doesn't play a factor. We can't just eliminate that.
We cannot victimize the victim either. Like, we can't continue to hold her to this cross when she's human and she admitted her humanity. This other
no. Here's where I think she went wrong. I think she went wrong because she inserted, and she had every right to talk about the double standard. But I said this before: if you throw yourself into the mix of that situation, be ready for the blowback, because people are going to revisit your scenario, why you were put in that situation, and it's going to reignite a whole lot of things. So she just got to be ready for that. And I hope she was ready for that. I hope she understood the consequences of that.
I hope she's ready.
Go ahead, Coach.
Sorry.
I'm not certain that she's ready. Okay. I'm not certain that she's ready because, as Farajii stated, her last couple of competitions, she's not competed well. And I've got to question how dedicated she is to her craft. I'm sorry. I've got to question that. And I concur that the number one issue is double standard. I agree with that. But as a coach or a former coach, we always teach responsibility. And she should not have been in the position that she's in. And you talk about Michael Phelps. Yes, Michael Phelps had his issues. Michael Phelps was punished. But here's the difference. When Michael Phelps was allowed to compete, he won. Mm-hmm. And if you recall, what did she come in, 4th or 5th place once?
She came in last on one of her competitions. But Coach, when athletes are operating at that level, if you are out for a week, that it almost takes you out in terms of going back to square one in your training regimen. And it takes time to get back to that peak level of performance. And so, I'm not going to look at her performance in a snapshot of just two races after that event. We're going to give her time because they compete all year round to get to a peak performance where they can win at the level of the Olympics or some other national championship or international championship. I'm not going to look at just two races.
Yeah, and I concur with that. But on the other side, I think that we sometimes in the media will declare someone a potential champ and a GOAT, greatest of all time, with basically 1 or 2 performances. I think that's the case with her, where her body of work has not spoke to her greatness.
Well, I disagree because I think
it's cool. Look, I gotta take a break, y'all. I gotta take.
You did this, Farajii. You did this.
You damn going right. I did this. I gotta take a break. When we come back, we can discuss a little bit more. Stay with us, folks. Stay with us. It's the culture on the Black Star Network. Come on, man.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about sports, some of the big stories that have happened in the sports world. We've been chatting it up and really getting heated about this whole Sha'Carri Richardson situation. We got my culture crew, Eric P. Lee, B. Fly, and we're joined by Coach Butch McAdams, host of In and Out of Sports. And I know we got one more story that I want to get to, Coach, before we wrap this part of the conversation up. But I mean, to the point of this Sha'Carri situation, and I'd hear you, Brother Eric, like you posted, like the reason Sha'Carri was at the Olympic trials was because of her body of work. Right. I get that part. But I'm saying on a professional level, once she entered the Olympics, once she was eligible to compete in the Olympics, that put her on a whole different platform. That put her in a whole different stratosphere. And at that point, you got to understand the responsibility and the seriousness of that situation. And I'm you know, part of me is thinking like, and again, this is not where we should have the conversation. You said it, Eric, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. The wholeheartedly should be about the IOC saying, look, there's a difference. This is not a double standard. This is two different scenarios. The conversation really should be on the differences, the relationship that the IOC has with Russia and China, the differences of how they penalize Camila Valieva versus Sha'Carri Richardson. But this was bound to happen. I said it was going to happen. The moment the pot calls the kettle black, people going to start looking back at your situation and to start reanalyzing that situation. I knew this was going to happen. And B, to your point, it's not about even about cannabis, but cannabis is on the list of prohibited substances that athletes can take. Cannabis, and depending on the quality of the cannabis, some of it can give you life, and some of them can slow your ass down too.
Listen,
you know it. I know it
would be.
Listen, we're gonna move forward. Listen.
Yeah.
we were already policing Sha'Carri. Okay, we were already policing her before this drug test. Okay, we had more articles about her weed. No, yes, check your blog history. There were more conversations about her hair and literally, you know, about her lashes, you know what I'm saying, than about her speed. You know what I'm saying? So this is the black conversation. This was. And so then once the cannabis came into play, then it was like this "see, I told you so" narrative that came from internally, from our community. You know what I'm saying? And so you know the way our community, you know the way our elders, you know what I'm saying, will get on us. You know what I'm saying? Like we should know better than them. You know what I'm saying? We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Well, what's wrong with that?
But listen, I'm saying because it creates this superhuman, supernatural, unbalanced idea that happens inside of our body, and it's not right. It creates superwoman, this Superman.
Hold on, B. This is a black woman on the international sporting stage, right?
Yes.
That represents. Yes. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She is unapologetically who she is, authentically. She represents. When you see Sha'Carri Richardson, you see black people, right? So, but my thing is, we should have a certain standard. Like, it's like, yo,
we're not a monolith. We're not a monolith. We don't all go to the same church.
I didn't say, look, I'm not tripping. Look, I do push back on people that talk about hair color and all of that stuff. I push back. That's cosmetic stuff. I'm talking about when you are on certain platforms like the Olympics, where the whole world knows that you represent a certain community of people, a certain nation of people, then guess what? You're damn right you need to be held to a higher standard. You represent us, especially in running. Shit, I mean, black folks in running.
See,
you should be winning every damn thing.
All I'm saying is that once the metaverse takes over your sports, this won't be an issue anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like in this element, I can't wait for the metaverse to just take over the entire sport network. Because what's happening here, we're like, the issues that we're discussing in sports, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have any black owners. We got 80% black people in the game, because at the end of the day, let's keep it real. Like our world has depended on our strength, depended on our resiliency, depended on our speed, depended on our regenerative properties. And so whatever happens to us, whenever we fall, okay, we're always going to have droves of elders holding us like to this standard that is superhuman. All righty. And then our counterparts are looking at us like, how they should have made it anyway. That's why there's no ownership. You feel me? All of this entire conversation is ridiculous. And at the end of the day, like, she's 20 years old. At the end of the day, she's 21. you know?
21.
And so, and that right there,
who
like,
lost her mother, who lost her mother and decided to indulge. I'm
and
sorry,
so
maybe it's the pastor in me that's going to have this compassion for this child, but it's the passion and being a black man watching this young sister be, I think now being unjustly re-crucified because she admitted her wrong, she accepted the penalty, and simply brought up the fact that they're going to let this white 15-year-old child compete when she had a banned performance enhancing substance in her body. And why are we attacking Sha'Carri about that? I don't.
And why are we not putting this other little girl's parents in jail?
All right, go ahead, Coach. What's your take? Very quickly, Coach. Thank you.
Well, I don't. I would respectfully disagree. No one on this show has attacked her. Okay, and I think while you are showing compassion, we are, and when I say we, I'm speaking of the perspective that I'm taking as well as Farajii, that we're showing compassion. That all we're saying is whether you're 20 years old or you're 15, there are rules and standards that we all have to adhere to. And if we don't, then there are consequences. Okay. And then hopefully you learn from those consequences. That's all I'm saying. And
that's exactly what it is. And
that's it. And I'm coming.
I accept that. And
yeah, I'm coming from
the consequences.
Right. Yeah, I'm coming from a perspective of close to 40 years in coaching and in education. And, again, we talk about personal responsibility. And no, we're not robots and we all make mistakes, but we also have to be aware there are consequences to our mistakes. But when we make a mistake, hopefully it is a learning process, And that's all I'm saying.
To add to, Coach, and I appreciate that, and I think that we need to add to that to understand the optics. Sha'Carri should understand the optics, the quote unquote court of public opinion, but the optics of how her story is being presented, how she's presenting herself. I'm not talking about physical presentation. I'm just saying the optics of, and I talked about this last week. The optics of you are an older black woman, young black woman, and you kind of, you going in on this younger white girl, and it's like the optics. The optics aren't good. I mean, the optics is not good. You know what I'm saying?
The optics in this country ain't ever good.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. But here's what I'm saying, B. We can't look as a community organizer. I learned one thing, that you can't operate from a place of what it should be. You got to operate from a place of what it is.
So if she were white and went in on the Russian skater, do you think the optics would have been still bad?
No, it wouldn't have been as same. And that's the point. That's the point, brother. All right? That's the point. Like black people, we got to act like we keep acting like we say that we want to be seen in a certain way or we want to be treated in a certain way. But then in reality, we're in a state of denial that guess what? Every time we say something, our color is going to be the first thing that is heard.
So then we're still shackled.
Of course.
And we're still shackled by our own people. Like that is what is painfully clear, regardless on how I jump out of my shackles. As soon as my humanity comes into play, as soon as I do something that is illegal, then not only am I going to be held to the law, but now I'm going to be held to the hopscotch black law. Okay, that is even more schizophrenic than me dealing with the actual law, because the black law says that I'm supposed to embrace and own my superhumanness. So I'm not gonna pee. I'm not gonna have feces. Like, there's so many levels to our Black mask that we expect each other to keep on. And then when it falls off, we're like, oh, your Black mask fell off. They're gonna see you. They're gonna judge you. They're gonna judge you and all of your people as a result of it. Nope, put your mask back on, girl. Put your mask back on and don't let them see you sweat ever. Like, come on. This is fibroids. This is stroke. This is stress. Like, this is too much. How long? And so it's like, we have to divest. Like, divest from the IOC, divest from the NFL, divest from all of these systems that are clearly only pimping us. Clearly.
All right. So,
well, no, I don't agree with that. And I respect your perspective, but I don't agree with that one bit. I think that, look, for so many years historically, the fight 50, 60 years ago wasn't Black ownership. It was about being allowed to have a Black man play in Major League Baseball or the NFL. Okay. And then once we got in, then it was, well, what about playing positions of leadership, positions of thinking, like quarterback, center, linebacker? And so, hey, these athletes are well trained. Everyone has a special gift that he or she profits off. So no, I don't look at it in terms of these professional athletes being in shackle, because they can play a sport like a LeBron James, make a lot of money, and take that money to the community, and the community benefits from it. Muhammad Ali, for example. But the young lady, we all should teach personal responsibility. Nobody is chastising her or persecuting her personally, but we all are taught personal responsibility. And if you don't want to adhere to the rules, then nobody is forcing you to participate. You don't have to do it. But if you choose to do it, then there are rules that we all have to adhere to.
I'm gonna stop it right there. Because I want us all to be friends at 501.
Oh, yeah. Hey, do we have time to get into this?
Look, all right, let's just do it. Let me just get this. Let's get this in very quickly. Michigan
I think this would be a hot one.
Juwan Howard slaps the assistant coach. Keena, how long is that? Can we run that? Can we run that video very quickly?
Interesting finish here, 77. Oh, see, and they're going at it. Oh, yeah. Howard and Guard are not happy right now as the two of them continue to have words. We told you Juwan Howard was not happy about that timeout. And Juwan Howard just threw a right hand. And now we got a scrum. We have a scrum in Madison. Players are pushing and shoving. This is an ugly scene. This is an ugly scene.
Oh, my God.
Trying to get separated, and there's no doubt it all stems from the timeout by Greg Gard. Now, that's not an excuse for this, but that is what angered Juwan Howard, and it spilled over into this.
Coach, go ahead, sir. What's your take? We're gonna wrap it on this.
That was extremely ugly. And again, going back to personal responsibility, I don't care what transpired. Juwan Howard was wrong for throwing a punch. He was wrong for throwing a punch.
Yeah.
And you saw what the end result was when he throws a punch. Then the young athletes start in physical altercations with one another. He was wrong. Now, the opposing coach, What he did was so unsportsmanlike in terms of calling that timeout with 15 seconds to go. There's an unwritten rule that you don't do that. All right. And Jawan was walking by him. He put his hand on his arm to want to get him to stop and talk. And that's how it started. And if it had just been a verbal confrontation between the two coaches, then hey, no big deal. But when he throws that punch, he crossed the line. And in my opinion, it's a fireable offense. And it's the second time that he's had an altercation after the game with an opposing coach.
Yeah, wow. And I think that speaks to, Coach, just exactly what we're talking about in terms, and Brother Eric, talk in terms of just, again, the optics, the personal responsibility. What's your take on it, brother?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He's supposed to be the leader, an example for his players. Yeah, and he's operating at the highest professional level in coaching. As a head coach of a major university, and so it's unfortunate that did take place.
I mean, it looks like unsportsmanlike conduct taken to a whole nother level.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out, but it was unfortunate.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate. Juwan Howard, a legend in the game, and to see him smacking another coach, you don't see that often. You see that among players, but you don't really see coaches going at it like that. That is, and it was an assistant coach too. I mean, he didn't even. I'm about to go petty. Like, he didn't even smack the head coach. It was an assistant coach. So
yeah, I think Coach Howard claimed that someone grabbed his arm, in an aggressive manner, but it still doesn't. You are still responsible for your own actions, and reactions.
No, they had prior beef.
Yeah, I mean,
what I saw there was that happened. Whatever, that was beef from before. Yeah, that wasn't just on the court. Yeah, I could tell that was over a woman.
We're gonna end it like that. Hey, Coach Butch McAdams, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Hey, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach. Man, oh man. Why you? Of course, B would say something like that.
It's the woman that gave me. It's the woman that gave me.
Something that wasn't about no sport. It wasn't about no sport, Farajii. I can tell you that. Rewind that footage. I can show you the moment.
He could see him mouthing off the name of the woman. All right.
Let me see. I'll give me 10 minutes on social media and I'll let you know what happened.
Oh my God. All right. So look, real quickly, I wanted to end the show starting with the president and ending with the president very quickly. President Obama, they broke ground on building the Obama Center. And he has said through his people that the Obama Center will not be named in the name of donors, but will be named in the name of social justice advocates. Mm-hmm. He wanted to put something different there. Eric, very quickly, how big is that? Is that something that we, as culturally, we need to emphasize?
Well, I think he's breaking tradition from all previous presidential libraries, which is I think par for the course, since he broke the tradition of white presidents being the head of this nation. And so I think it's a good thing, but that's between him and his donors. If he can convince his donors to still give the money and not have their name up there, that's on them.
B, what's your take?
I'm ready to go to Chicago to see it. Will there be live performances? Will there be live performances? I want to know. I want to rent some books. I'm sure the Obama Library is going to be the best library in the world, and will probably shut down the Smithsonian. So,
hey, look, I would be interested. I'm with you, B. I would be interested to see what type of books are actually in the library, like books that you probably wouldn't expect to be in his library. Like, I hope he gives us, like, you know how he put out his playlist a few months ago or some time ago. He was talking about people he was listening to, and people were like, oh, he listens to hip hop. Oh,
well, here's what B is saying though, is because they're not going to. The nonprofit, the Obama Nonprofit Foundation is going to be running it rather than the archives, the National Archives. That's a breaking tradition. And they're not going to have a research library. They're going to digitize it so that everybody who wants to get access to the presidential documents can do so. And so, you know, she's right. She's right on all fronts.
Hey, look, I'm all here for it. I'm glad that the president recognized that and I always thought this was one of the big qualities that set him apart from a lot of leaders. He recognized that he's not in the position on his own, that he's standing on the shoulders of other people that came before him, right? So I love the idea that he put some advocates, and I hope that the quote unquote not name brand, you know, like not like the mainstream ones, but the ones that really, you know, took us a further along in this fight for freedom, justice, and equality in this country. So I love it. I would be highly interested to see what kind of books would be in the library, because I know that he is a man that is well read. And I know that he brings a lot of his political and personal philosophy from a lot of different people. So don't be surprised when you start to hear about what books might be in that library. Don't be shocked, folks. But the library is going to be located in Jackson Park, right there along Lake Michigan. I used to live in Chicago. Beautiful, beautiful. You know, when you go up that drive, South Shore, is it not South Shore Drive, is it? I think it might be. But right there along the lake, it's just a beautiful view of the city, and it's set to open in 2025. So, you know, we'll see how the Obamas continue to do it for the culture. Eric B., always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. Truly appreciate all that you bring to the table. B., thank you.
Thank you, Farajii.
Absolutely. So good for the culture. My culture crew. Love them, love them, love them. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I'm serious. I love you guys. All right. Anyway, I appreciate all of you for being a part of the conversation. Man, get off screen. I appreciate all of you for being a part of the conversation, joining us on our various platforms. Make sure you continue to show your support for Black Star Network. You can go to blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you download Black Star Network on all of your devices, whether it's TV or your phone or your tablet. And we need your support. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. We need your support. So we want you to know that Black-owned media is owned by you, and that we're making sure we're holding ourselves accountable to the culture that you are a part of and creating. And so Black Star Network is your network for Black-owned media. All right, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned at the 6 o'clock hour. My big brother Roland Martin, with Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, God willing, for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.